Hi. So earlier, somebody sent me a link to this blog that Lenovo did on retro ThinkPads. And this is a pretty cool step forward because they're talking about a lot of the things that annoyed a lot of hardcore Lenovo ThinkPad and IBM ThinkPad users up to the T520 series. A lot of people are going to debate what is a classic ThinkPad versus what is a modern ThinkPad that we don't like. But I think it's safe to say that the real revolting started after the T520 series when they started screwing with the keyboard layout, screwing with the function keys, and removing the trackpoint. So I know that there are a lot of people out there that are going to argue with that and go a little bit before, a little bit after, but that's really where this machine became a mess. And one of the things that really gets to me about this article, they're talking about these features and they're saying that we don't know if we can still sell this product to these new users. So in order to create a classic, a retro ThinkPad, that we have to make sure that there are a lot of people that are still going to buy it. We have to have the sales volume that's going to be there to justify it. And the one thing that I find irritating with this retro concept is what you're doing, Lenovo, is you're implying that having volume buttons is retro, that having an antimicrobial keyboard because you have the light up top instead of on the keys is retro, that having working function keys is retro. And that's something that I don't really appreciate because what you're doing is you're kind of implying that all of these people that use the products that don't like the new design, that don't like that instead of having 3 mouse buttons, they have 1 mouse button for left, middle, and right. That people that don't like that they cannot turn the volume up and down without hitting function. The people who don't like that they have slimy keyboards because instead of having a nice antimicrobial keyboard like this one to get the backlight in the keyboard, you've removed that. If you get a T440 with a backlit keyboard versus a non-backlit keyboard, you'll see what I mean. The non-backlit keyboard kind of feels a little sandpaperish. What you're going to notice is that it doesn't degrade over time, nor does it get greasy or kind of melt away the keys the same way that the backlit keyboard does. And I don't really appreciate the idea that these benefits are retro or that they are reserved for people who refuse to move on with technology. I started using ThinkPads as my primary machine when I was 20 years old. I'm 26 years old. Everything that I have that I use right now is modern technology, and I don't really appreciate this idea that I must be this old curmudgeon just because I want volume keys, that I'm a curmudgeon just because I don't want my keyboard to get sticky and nasty over time, even if I keep my hands clean. I don't appreciate being called weird because I want function keys. Maybe when I go Alt F4, but I'm in the regular mode so that I can go volume up and down, I don't appreciate that when I want to quit a program that I have to do this shit. I'm not Spider-Man. I don't want to prepare a web to shoot out every single time I want to hit Alt F4. This is annoying. And the same is true with the track point. Yeah, you fixed it. You made the buttons a little nicer, but just look at how it curves in on this thing. This is the old classic T520. This just curves to your thumb. The new one is just a pretty much seems like a plastic play school button by comparison to this. And it's just not the same. How many people are going to get so mad that you put volume buttons on here that they're not going to buy your T460? How many people are going to get so angry that they have function keys returned to their computer and volume at the same time that they're not going to buy it? How many people are going to become irritated that you have a middle button on your trackpad? Are people going to stop using your product because you put the keys in the keyboard the same way they are on a desktop? How many people have said, you know what, I'd love to buy a ThinkPad, but I can't buy it because they put dedicated volume buttons on the keyboard? Really? Honestly, who are you polling? Who are you asking that you think that this is a request that only comes from classic users? It is silly, it is asinine, it is ridiculous. For people who want computers of a different design, you have the IdeaPad, you have the Yoga, you have all these other product lines. The whole point behind a company like Lenovo versus a company like Apple is Apple has 1 or 2 product lines and that is it. If you do not want a MacBook Air and you do not want a MacBook Pro, you're fucked. The whole point with a company like Lenovo is you have the T series, the W series, the X series, the L series, just for ThinkPads, and the E series. Then you have the IdeaPad. Then you have all the different Yogas. Then you have the Edges. You have all these different product lines. So if you have people that are truly fucking offended that you have put volume buttons on the computer, if you have people that would rather have backlit keyboards that have that flat design instead of that sandpaperish antimicrobial design so that the keyboard goes to shit within a year or 2 of use and looks nasty, by all means put that in the other designs. If you want to have a keyboard that looks nothing like a desktop keyboard so that when I sit down to type at it, I'm just as fucked as I would have been on any other laptop, by all means do that to the other lines. Do that to the other 12 or 13 or 14 models of computer you sell, but don't do it to this one. The whole point of a company having multiple lines of machines is that you can cater to different customers. If you would like to have one product line and say, all of you old fucks and all of you even young people who just like what we like to think is retro design, then become Apple. Then have one or two product lines and say, you're going to take this, and if you don't want to take this, then fuck off. I can respect that. That's fine. But that's being Apple. You're Lenovo. You took over IBM's brand, and it is your job to live up to the brand that you purchased. It's that simple. This is not retro. This is basic functionality. I want a keyboard that feels the same way as a desktop keyboard on my business workstation machine. On my IdeaPad, I may not care. On my tablet, folds over shit, I may not care. On my $100 or $200 netbook, I may not care. And on my gaming computer, I may not care. But on my ThinkPad, workstation, business machine, I would appreciate if you gave us a keyboard that is the same as the keyboard on a desktop. I would appreciate if you gave us a trackpoint, because that is what these people are used to using. Again, a gamer has no use for a trackpoint. Somebody who's buying a yoga where they're using the touch interface on the screen more often has no use for a trackpoint. But on the ThinkPad W and T series, people have use for a trackpoint. Stop fucking with it. Don't change things that people have not complained about. And if they have complained about it, and if you think they may be better off buying your other lines, give them the other computers and stop fucking up the one that people actually like. It's not retro to have volume buttons. It's not retro to have this. The only reason it is retro is because retro refers to old, and we can only find this in older computers because in spite of having 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 different product lines, you refuse to have even one of those lines have the basic functionality that has caused people to pay more money and only buy your products for the last 15 or 20 years. And that's just kind of silly. So when you're debating whether or not to implement these features in a newer design, stop thinking of them as retro. Stop thinking of them as features that only curmudgeons are going to want, and really, really think really hard. Again, I'm a designer. I'm a marketing person. Are people not buying my product because of the volume buttons? Are people not buying my product because they have function keys? Or are people not buying my product because, gee, I can't find it in Best Buy? Or are people not buying my product because the high-end market is kind of dominated by Apple because nobody's really catering to it? And when I go to Best Buy, 99% of the shit I see is from Toshiba and Acer and costs $300. The reason people are not buying your products has absolutely nothing to do with volume keys. It has nothing to do with where the backlight is in the computer. The problem is just a fundamental lack of exposure. When I go into these big box stores, I don't see a lot of a Lenovo. I see a lot of HP. I see a lot of Acer. I see a lot of Toshiba. I got to look really hard to find a Lenovo. And that's part of why you may notice that the sales of this are not there. You want these ThinkPads to sell? Why can't I find a ThinkPad W541 in Best Buy? Why is it that when I walk up and down the line at Best Buy that I don't see this? Why is it when I go on a B&H photo and video that I have to look really, really hard to find this, but every other brand is right there? These are the reasons that these are not selling. You combine that with the fact that you have been sodomizing and skull-fucking their design. Again, if you want people to buy this design, that want the modern-looking computer, that want the keyboard that's nothing like the desktop, that don't give a shit about function keys, by all means, give them an IdeaPad, give them a Yoga, give them your gaming computers, give them whatever other series that is going to work for them. But don't start destroying the one line of computer that has nothing to do with those people, so that the people who are used to using it and like it, not because they're old, not because they're out of touch with technology, not because they're lunatics that want to keep the same machine for 15 or 20 years, but just because it's functional, just because it works, just because it's good, makes sense design, don't ruin that for no reason. And I say this because I have met those people. I've had people walk into my store with a 6 or a 10 or a 15-year-old ThinkPad and be like, I need to fix this. And I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I'm not touching that motherboard. And I go, why is it you want to fix this? It's like, they just don't make them like they used to. And I go, what about getting a used T400? I don't want that new shit. What about a T61? I don't want that newer bullshit. Like, I've met people who are nuts. I've met people who come in with that 1996 ThinkPad and they're like, this is the only thing that I am going to use for the rest of my life because I'm used to it. Those are curmudgeons. I understand that. I understand that that's a little bit nuts, and that's not exactly the people that I'm trying to align myself with or get on board with. But what I'm trying to get across here is that it is not retro to like basic functionality. It is not retro that I would like to be able to hit the mute key when I'm listening to the Marshall Mathers LP and I'm jamming to track 11, and then Ken Kniff comes on, you get to hear Eminem giving somebody a blowjob. I'd like the ability to hit mute instantly as soon as that track ends so that the people that are around me at work don't get to hear and wonder, gee, why is Lewis listening to two men having sex in his office? It's awkward, it's weird, and with the new Lenovo Thinkpad, I often find myself hitting F1 instead of mute at that awkward moment and having to tell my coworkers, oh, I'm listening to the Marshall Mathers LP, and watch their faces kind of look weird. It's just something that I don't want to deal with. Again, how many people like being Spider-Man when they want to hit Alt F4? You may go, well, you don't know how to use the computer. You hit function and escape and you have function key lock. Great, now I want to change the volume. What do I do now, you wise ass? It's annoying and there's no point for it. So what I would suggest you do, again, don't think of it like retro design. Think of it as in, if I change this feature, will I gain users? And the answer with a lot of the shit that you've been doing is no. Increase battery life. Make them smaller. Make sure that these machines that are supposed to compete with everybody else's machines are actually available in stores so that people can find them. Make sure that if you want your W541, if you want your T550 to sell, get them into Best Buy, get them into B&H, get them to be at the front of the store. Do whatever the hell it is that Acer and Toshiba and HP are doing so that when I walk into a store, I actually know that you sell computers. I actually know that you manufacture computers. Do you have any idea how many people have walked into my store with an issue with their Apple product and they go, gee, who do you recommend? And I go, well, I use Lenovo. And you know what their answer is? Who's Lenovo? What's Lenovo? What is a Lenovo? Who are they? What do they make? What do they do? They don't even know you exist, which means that your marketing is wrong because they know that Toshiba exists. They know that Acer exists. They know that HP exists. They know that Sony Vaio exists, but they don't know who you are. Fix that problem. You have enough product lines. You have enough different product lines for different types of people that you don't need to worry about changing them or destroying them or fucking them up to get business. What you need to do, make sure that people know that your products exist, and that's it. That's really all there is to it. It's not about retro. It's not about gaining a new user base. It's about not pissing off the user base that you already have and trying to tap into the user base of all these people that don't know that your products exist. And you want to know something else about people knowing that your products exist and your products being out there so people know that they exist? I tried to sell Lenovos a year and a half ago. You want to know how hard it is to sell Lenovos? If you want to become a Lenovo authorized repair center, which I figured should be easy since we're one of the few places in the country that repair Apple products at component level every single day. We know a little bit what we're doing. Oh, you can't. You need to sell $60,000 worth of Lenovo products per month in order to do that. So we go to the distributors and we go to some of the distributors that we have been spending $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 a month with. You know what they tell us? They give us pricing for your products that is literally $5 less than the retail price at B&H Photo and Video. Am I going to buy and resell your products? Am I going to try to become an authorized repair center of your products when that requires that I sell $60,000 a month worth of a machine where I can buy it for $858, but B&H down the street is selling that computer for $865? Not really. You have made, again, if you call up interested in becoming a Lenovo authorized reseller, you are not interested in our business. You are not interested in a small shop like us selling your stuff. When you call Lenovo to actually talk to them, to speak to them about this, you get people that are so utterly indifferent that do not give a flying shit or a fuck if you do business with them, that it's ridiculous. I would never tell somebody to resell Lenovo products. I wasn't even doing it with the goal of making a lot of money. I simply liked the T520 that I had. I believe that a lot of the people that walked in, that are tired of products that overheat and die and crap out if they get even put near a window where there's the slightest bit of moisture, I figured that they would be well served by a product that you can drop, by a product that you could drop off of a ladder repeatedly while setting up camera systems, by a product that simply just works and is durable and is reliable over a long period of time. But I can't do that because it doesn't make any sense, and there's really nobody there to help. So that's not really everything to do with the design, but it's just something I feel like mentioning in this video since I haven't done a video on Lenovo in a while. Oh, and the worst is that this blog actually wastes time talking about the color of the ThinkPad logo. And I remember reading older posts where it's talking about how the logo used to say ThinkPad so that we could read it, but now the logo says ThinkPad posted the other direction so everybody can see the word ThinkPad and embrace the ThinkPad because now we're looking out towards the world. Who comes up with this shit. We do not give two shits of a fuck which way the logo is oriented. You can write ThinkPad in white letters, or black letters, or silver letters, or colored letters. You can make it say ThinkPad vertically, diagonally, horizontally. You can take that logo and make it brown, and then make it vertical, and then make it pointy, so that you can take it and shove it up your ass, so that it'll match the color of the crap that you are full of when you tell us why we should like not having volume buttons, and why it is retro to have a keyboard that feels good, and why we should be open to embracing this new design of a trackpad that feels like cock and balls, that doesn't have the 3 buttons that we're used to for a 3-button interface and a 3-button design. Nobody cares which way the logo is. Please, for the love of God, if we can save even 1 cent over the retail cost of this product by not having a focus group that tells you which way and what color to make it say ThinkPad on the case, by all means, fire that focus group, fire that marketing person, and save the money. Nobody cares about the color of the ThinkPad logo. Nobody cares about which way you orient the ThinkPad logo. We are functional. We do not care about form to that extent. The core user base of this product are people that don't care about that. They want their volume keys, they want their function keys, they want their track point. They don't care about the color of the logo. So stop talking about it, stop typing about it, and stop focusing on it. So this, I feel, is a step in the right direction. At the very least, this means that all the people who are pissed off at Lenovo, they're actually getting across to Lenovo that maybe they did something wrong by destroying these machines. Please bring back volume buttons. Please bring back a keyboard with a layout that is similar to a desktop. Again, it is not about being retro. It's not about hating new stuff. It's simply about this keyboard layout has been used on desktops for the past 30 to 40 years. People are used to that. If you were to buy a brand new desktop today at Best Buy, you would be getting a new keyboard that has what you call the retro layout of this ThinkPad. And that is what people are used to, and that is why they like it. Please bring back basic features like having a light on it, but also having a keyboard that is antimicrobial. Every single time I use another product and they have those flat keys that just even if you wash your hands every 30 minutes, you have to clean the keyboard constantly if you don't want it to have sweat on it because the keyboard is that flat plastic junk. Please get rid of that and go back to a keyboard like this where when you feel it, it just has that kind of sandy feeling on it where you know that grease and junk from your hands, because believe it or not, we are humans. We are not robots. We actually do emit things from our pores, and it is nasty, and it is nice when you design a computer that is not really meant to absorb that nasty into the computer over time. Again, this is not retro. This is simply basic functionality, and it's pretty cool. Give me a battery that doesn't die in 2 hours, even when I get this huge honking piece of crap battery. Make it a little bit thinner. I feel like you're making a step in the right direction by realizing this. But please, just bring back the things that make sense. Bring back a middle button that actually feels nice. Bring back volume keys. Bring back a keyboard that is antimicrobial so it doesn't feel like a cheap piece of crap like every other laptop out there where the keys get greasy over time for no good reason. Bring back the ability for me to type on this keyboard and for it to feel the same way that it does on every other keyboard that I use. Again, most people, they use desktops. They're used to using desktops. They learned on a desktop because it's a standard design. And if you were to buy a desktop today at Best Buy, right now in 2015, if you were going to buy that, the keyboard layout on that desktop, if you were to look at any laptop, is very, very close to what you call a retro design. I don't like this keyboard because it's old. I like this keyboard because it is the same standard as everything else, which means I don't have to get used to something different every time I sit down at a laptop. It's not retro. It just makes sense.